Hello, and welcome to Season 2 of Super Pros Bros. I'm Player 1, Ike, and with me, as always, is...
Player 2, Eli, and most of Stalin. Here to this podcast is available on YouTube, SoundCloud, and Spotify.
I did not, Angelina Broly. Are those the same places they could
Like,
comment?
share.
And subscribe?
Yeah, it sure is.
Wow.
I know.
Technology these days.
It's outrageous.
Speaking of things that are outrageous, my last couple weeks since we've spoken have been outrageous.
How so?
So, last time we spoke, I need to double check when we last
We
recorded.
gotta date ourselves really quick.
Yeah, it's been a minute. All right, so the last episode was that one. I uploaded it on March 30th. That's not when it was put online, but that's when we recorded about it. So, all right. So, since then, I have gone to 2 Magic the Gathering tournaments.
Nerd.
Yeah. So, first one was in Oakland. It was fantastic. First day we're there, we're doing like these little grinder tournaments to see if we can get buys for the main tournament. Buys are free round wins. They are very valuable. And these tournaments had a prize too, so it's not like you're paying for nothing.
Doesn't hurt.
So they had them every other hour. They start at 1 p.m., go 3 p.m., go 5 p.m., go 7 p.m. And then the last one's at 7. Enter the one at 1 p.m. Win the first round in a very bizarre fashion where I beat the guy for the first game. So Magic games, for those of you who don't know, are best 2 out of 3. Beat him the first game, and then as we're sideboarding for the second game, he says something that I couldn't quite parse and then concedes. I was like, okay. And then he just left. It's like, he didn't need to concede early to go play in another event. There's nothing going on at 2. So I'm like, I don't understand what's happening. Sure, I'll take the win. Second round, I end up needing to use the bathroom at the beginning. Use the bathroom, play the game. Game 3 goes long. I end up winning the second game, which is notable because a friend's brother sees it. My friend Dan Silver, his brother Jeffrey was along for the ride. Great kid. Also a huge goober, as you'll see in a moment. Sees me win the second game and then walks away. Play a long third game, end up losing. Sag. I look at the clock. It's an analog clock, it's an analog clock across the room. Can't quite see what time it is. It's close to 3. I'm like, fuck. I jet over to the event registration. I'm like, hey, can I register? And she looks at her clock and looks at me and she goes, it's 3:01. I'm really sorry. The program won't let me. I'm like, no, it's okay. You're fine. It happens. That's an L. It's kind of funny that I literally got here a minute after. Very, very cinematic. But, it happens. I get it. As I'm walking, and she continues to apologize, the sweetest of ladies behind the counter. I'm like,
Yeah.
lady, it's fine. You're probably saving me money. I walk away from the counter. I'm like, bummed, but it happens. It's a little funny. As I'm walking away, my friend's brother comes up and goes, hey, good job. I was like, what are you talking about? I just get this accidental dagger because he thought I won. And so he's like, hey, nice job. Go get him. I'm like, dude, I lost. He's like, oh. And he just turns away and does not make eye contact with me. Just looks at the floor and just walks away in embarrassment. It was so choice.
Excellent.
So next one's at 5. However, my Dan Silver, my good friend, apparently he's got some buddies who live in the Bay and they want to go to dinner. I want to go to dinner with my buddy who I'm on the trip with. I want to hang out as much with him as I can. He goes, yeah, so dinner's gonna be at 5, so we can't do the 5 o'clock. I'm like, buys or whatever. It'll be fine. 5, he double checked with his friend at 4:58. Hey, dinner, this place. He goes, yeah, I'll leave right now. He also lost and doesn't register for the 5 o'clock. 5:02 rolls around. He gets a text. Hey, it's an hour and a half to get to you. I'll just see you tomorrow. So we're both like, God damn it. Just got double daggered to not be able to play more qualifiers. And we're sitting there we could be in a tournament right now. What the fuck?
What a knob.
I get it, but the time, he didn't know, but the timing was just so perfect. Just daggered by minutes both times. Whatever happens, go out and have great overpriced pizza that I sadly tried to save and it ended up getting misplaced and I had to throw it out. Very sad, but it was great pizza. Have a good night. the kids, Dan's brother and his friend who are along for the ride, both win and are very excited about it, which when kids are excited and you're having a midday is very annoying in a
Yep.
silly sort of fashion. Uh, Weekend goes by. I end up narrowly missing out on the top eight, actually losing to somebody else that was in the car, which balls, but ended up finishing 11th for $400. So whoop whoop, weekend paid for. End up going and getting sauce from my favorite. There's a local Bay Area taqueria chain called La Victoria. Yes, it's the same company that you see the sauces. However, they have a sauce at these local taquerias in the Oakland Bay Area. They have this thing called orange sauce. I cannot stress how fucking amazing this sauce is. And if you're a big fan of tacos, burritos, or just eggs in the morning with some spice to it, you got to pick up yourself a bottle of the orange sauce. It is busted. Drove like 20 minutes out of the way to pick that up on the way home. And, other than young kids being kids, because the people we were with were both like just graduated college, they're having their first job kind of thing, and we're hilariously stupid in some circumstances where they just said dumb shit because they're kids. Like, I'm 35,
Yeah.
they're 21, they're basically just kids. And, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like funny dealing with people who just like think they know stuff because they have a degree and a job and they're just like wrong. There's like wiling out at the mouth and you're just like
Yep.
somewhere between grown, oh my god, and Jesus Christ, kids are stupid, like giggling to other adult.
Yep.
And to cap it off, and like I think the best showcasing of it, we are getting ready to go on Sunday. We're like checked in this Airbnb, we're checking out, and the guy who actually ended up top 8ing the event and beat me in the last round is like packing up, getting ready to go. And when you pack up in an Airbnb, you do it on the bed you were staying in, you put all your clothes back in, you do it on a table.
Sure.
This guy was doing it on the floor in the kitchen, which is the room in between the bedrooms and the living room. So
I
like
was fine
the
with on the floor, but
thoroughfare.
the kitchen is a bit of an odd point.
And it's in the causeway. It's between where I would like be taking my stuff out of the like it's the only walk area between my room and the living room where I'm gonna put my shit to be taken to the car. I'm like, bruh. And he goes, oh, sorry, and moves like a foot to the left. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, how do you have a degree? How do you know how to tie your shoes and not have like the modicum of social awareness? It's not like he was half in the bag either. He had had a cup of coffee and a shower. This motherfucker was awake. I'm just like, oh my god. So that happens. And then I had to check on this because I've run into this a bit recently. I'm very curious to hear my co-host's opinion. Chewing with your mouth closed versus open.
Is that actually a question?
Yes.
Fucking close your mouth, you animal.
Okay. Yeah. So initially, I had a couple situations when dealing with people, a couple of which older, but some of which younger, where there was this kind of similarity of chewing with their mouth open. I was like, shit, is that something that like, is a generational thing? Because when I brought it up, guy that doesn't know how to pack his clothes also doesn't know how to choose with his fucking mouth closed. And he's sitting in the living room after he's packed and everybody that couldn't pack around him is now packing. He's like eating a bowl of cereal, cool, and he's just I'm like, bruh. Like, I said it as nicely as I've ever made a request like this when I was, in my opinion, very clearly in the right, so I'm a little bit proud. I was like, hey, dude, can you please chew with your mouth closed? It's really wearing on me. Like that, like verbatim. And he just flies off the handle like, what the fuck? You get on me about this, you get on me about that. It's like, well, yeah, you were wrong at every turn. So yes, I got on you about that. It's what I should have said. And I had all the right to. But again, I adulted up and I was like, fair enough, and just like let it go. Proud moment. Anyway, but yes, it's very much thank you. And talking to people recently, I was like, oh, cool. I don't have to be sad for the upcoming years of my life. It's just like, no, this guy was a moron. Cool. Anyway, so that was that weekend. I come back after playing like 3 days of Magic straight to prep for the regional championship in San Diego, and I was planning on just playtesting online, taking a chill week.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found out that a local, one of the best comic stores here in Los Angeles, Collector Legion, run by the lovely Grimm, uh, was going to host like a tournament prep thing for everybody that was qualified, as it was very close. And, there's a lot of people in LA that were qualified. And so for like Monday through Thursday, they were going to have from like noon till midnight, they were going to have testing for anybody who wanted it. I was like, well, I'm not going to leave money on the table. So I drove the God knows how long because LA traffic sucks, and like played in person for the first 3 days for like 10ish hours each day. And it was just like, ah. By Wednesday, it turns out I found out that I do, in fact, at least at this point in my life, have a ceiling for Magic. And I was just like, I'm gonna take it easy and just chill at home, maybe play some online.
There is good to know there is a top on this thing.
Yeah, I used to not think there was. I remember having conversations with a friend of mine, and I was like, I think I could play like tournament Magic, like big tournament Magic, like every day for like a month. And now I'm like, I mean, maybe that was true then. It definitely isn't true now. I could not do that. I would die. I would just be like a shell. But did that. Prepped. Went to Disneyland actually on the Thursday before, which was lovely.
Nice.
So got to just chill with a couple friends. For those of you that ever get the chance to go or go on the ride, Rise of the Resistance has notably like one of the longest wait times. Apparently, it's like an hour and a half is the average wait time. Worth. I can say that wholeheartedly as not a like Star Wars sycophant. Fucking worth. Is busted. It is so much fun.
All right.
Yeah. Went on both the Star Wars ride. Never went on Space Mountain. Went on Space Mountain. That was a blast.
Space Mountain is dope.
Yeah. You been on it before?
Yes.
I didn't.
I
Something
waited,
about it being.
I waited 2 hours in line with Colton.
Holy shit. Jesus.
We doubted the timer was right, and because they hide the line from you, and which is
Yeah.
now we will say to each other, Mickey Mouse knows his shit.
Yeah. Mickey Mouse about it. Apparently, they're finally instituting something that I'm surprised took them this long, where they, for a couple rides, they're trying out digital line standing, where you just put yourself in a line on your phone, on the app.
They just give you like a 15-minute like heads up.
Yeah.
Coming up, so you can walk there.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully that gets instituted in everything. It should, just because like it makes financial sense. Because if people aren't waiting in line, they can spend money.
That's so they can go walk to a store.
They can buy merch, buy food that's overpriced and delicious, but
The only kind of business caveat I see with that is limiting line access.
Yeah.
Like you can't have yourself put in like 4 different lines.
Yeah,
it's bail out that could deal with syncing up appropriately.
Yeah, there's troubleshooting that has to happen for sure, but it seems like one of those things that like, please God, yes. Didn't mind waiting in lines. I was waiting with friends. It was a blast. Had lots of fun, silly moments. There was great nonsense that I won't get into because it's a little too hard to describe. But it was the happiest place on earth for me that day. It was fantastic. Nice. Thank you so much, Dan and Amy Milliken. We had a blast. That happens next morning. Go to play Magic in sunny San Diego. Had so much fun. Ate a burrito. We took our first lunch break and got a great California burrito that was in walking distance from the convention center. You know those rawhide bones that we used to feed dogs growing up?
Yeah.
Looked exactly like that. It was that size, so gigantic, like the size of your forearm, and just that color white. And I was like, nice. Bit into it. It had that perfect amount of like chew, not quite done, to like fried. It was, oh my god, so fucking perfect. It was busted. I should look up the place so I can shout it out, although nobody here that listens to it probably lives in San Diego. And you can just get great burritos everywhere in San Diego. But I had a fantastic time. Ended up having a fantastic financial time as well, as I finished second in the nearly 1,000-person event, which not only got me on paper $15,000, it also got me a invite to Las Vegas to play in Worlds, and an invite to Minneapolis to play in the Pro Tour, which will be, I think, my 5th or 6th here in like, how many days is it now? Not that many. So that's 7. That's 7, so that's 14. So I will be playing on the Pro Tour in 19 days, 18 days, depending how you want to count it. Coming up quick, as they say. So, woo! Sadly, this is going to interfere. For those of you hoping to get updates about the Magician's Academy stuff like that, I am going to be sadly putting that on the shelf for the next couple weeks, as I really want to focus and do well. Because the next tournament, it's really weird. So I'm getting very inside baseball here.
Mm-hmm.
On the Pro Tour back in the day, you used to have to go. It's a 16-round tournament. You used to have 11 wins and 5 losses to re-queue or to qualify for the next Pro Tour. That is not easy, as the Pro Tour is basically the height of competition, and the players don't fuck around.
Also, just going 11-5 is outrageous in most things.
Yeah, you have to have an over, like nearly 70% win rate, like over 66% win rate. And it's fucking hard, and then you're playing against the best players in the world and variants. Yay! So you had to do really well. Now, at least for this year, as coming out of Corona, they've kind of reintroduced a new system and stuff like that. You only have to go 9-7, which is barely above 50. Yeah, a lot more attainable, even if you don't think you're the best in the world. So, and as the next one is in sunny Barcelona, and because I've won enough money, I'm deciding to take the summer off and write, play Magic, stream, stuff like that. I would love to go to Barcelona and maybe make a Euro trip out of it. So I'm very much wanting to do well, and more on that as time transpires. Now that I have owned the mic for the last like 15 minutes, Broskinkowski, what's been going on with you? Top that, bitch.
Sure. Just not in a happy context.
Oh no.
Well, I mean, so I had 2 wildly fluctuating weeks, so
buckling up.
So the fun one is I was an absolute gaming degenerate for about 96 hours straight.
You?
Because Path of Exile released an update, and I'm an absolute fucking shill for that game. And it's just, people don't like the update. I don't care. The base game is just fun enough that I enjoy playing the hell out of it, so I've been playing a lot of that. That's the fun part. It was a great time. It was a really fun weekend. I just kind of gave it to myself and said, fuck it. The downside, and the more sobering life one, is that I am realistically moving to Portland near-ish future. It's still a lot of question marks and things very much up to the whims of fate. But I've started looking for like new employment and
yay.
Yeah. So, and I'm very annoyed, and kind of not gonna say I had a personal epiphany, but like very annoyed that I had to go have a conversation with my boss's boss's boss about like, hey, is this like, can a remote accommodation be made? And basically the TLDR is like, no, the company will not compromise for you in any way, shape, or form because despite you being here for 5 years, being an exemplary employee, it's not in management's kind of vision for the culture they want at this place. Yeah. I was pretty unfiltered with the guy when I'm like, their vision is stupid. They're going to kill their own company. 20 years, it's gonna die. Like I didn't care. Yeah. And so I've spent the last couple of days fairly angry. That I've just sat waiting so long, hoping that they would, I don't know, do the right thing, do the easy thing.
Have a brain cell for once.
Have a brain cell, and just like there were so many options for them to change the narrative about their company being basically shitty and stupid, and it's like you could change it, and you just can't be bothered. You can't be asked. So go blow it out your ass. So,
but on the plus side, you get to get out of a company that is that stupid.
Yeah, which is good. And I do respect the guy who I had the conversation with, because like he took the time to, have a face-to-face. He didn't need to. He could have just sent me an email and said, basically, get bent.
Yeah.
We could have. It would have been just as effective.
I think it tells you how much you're valued, though, which, even though you're leaving the company, is, a nice thing to hear. And it means it's very good when you want to get a recommendation.
I have no qualms with middle management in my company. I have qualms with upper management in my company.
Yeah.
Because they are dumb. They are unapologetically dumb.
Sadly, a constant.
Yeah, it's and in retrospect, I should have known. Like, I should have seen a tremendous red flag, which is really funny now. So like executives would come and visit our office every now and again for whatever fucking reason, and as like as an entry level employee, you were told like basically stay the fuck out of their way.
Yeah.
Don't talk to them. Be seen, not heard. Like Jesus Christ.
I know that
Like
feeling.
yeah, like on retrospective, like what a fucking red flag when your bosses don't want to like engage with their employees whatsoever. They want them just to fuck off and shuffle off and get out of the
Yep.
way. Like
It's a very old school way of thinking. I, pun intended, dealt with that a lot when dealing at the casino, where like high end customers, a lot of the time, the modus operandi for a lot of people was, and the recommended one was, shut up and say nothing, be as
like I
quiet, take the
like
abuse.
I get being respectful and all,
Mm.
but like they talked about management, like there was some abusive father you like just wanted to avoid at all
Yeah, he's coming
costs.
home drunk after a
Yeah,
hard
like
week's
just
work.
don't engage, don't
Yeah,
look him in the eye,
don't make
like
eye contact. Hide under the bed, children.
yeah,
Yeah.
like and and they put out fucking like potpourri and shit in the bathrooms and like little bottles of scope and shit for management. Like I was told,
When only when
I
they were coming through.
yes, and I was told you are not to take this. This isn't for you. So naturally, I engaged in some fucking guerrilla warfare and took some miniature bottles of scope, my victory trophies,
That's
fucking
so
champagne of victory, baby.
so stupid.
So dumb, so dumb, such a stupid red flag. So I'm looking for work, and hopefully I find something within the next month. So my
Are
lease
you
is
looking
up.
for? You're looking for either remote or at the very
I
least
I would
in
I would love
Portland.
something remote, or I will take something tangible in Portland and figure it out from there. But I cannot stay in Seattle indefinitely. It's not vibing
Well, it's
with
not vibing, and your
it
wife is going
yes.
to go work at, or going to go
She's
study at
going she's going to
Portland University.
school and she wants out. She feels iced out and had issues with all sorts of shit I don't need
Yeah,
to get into. But it's not
no,
gelling, and my wife is much more important to me than where I'm staying.
yeah.
So
Your job was a means to a financial end, nothing
yes,
other than that.
it, it,
So
it is a it was a job.
yeah,
It was not a way of life. It was not a. It's not that hard to tether. It was convenient, and I was hoping to just have one less thing I needed to suss out and figure out.
yeah.
But such is life. They can go fuck themselves.
Hmm.
Anyways,
But you get to move to a great city, enjoy insanely weird and delicious food. I think you'll enjoy the vibe of Portland more, as I've been to both cities a lot, and it's a lot more lax. You're gonna have to deal with
I'll
like,
be honest. I just hope there's better parking. I can dream. Let me
um,
dream.
I think the city is smaller, so public transit like works better for you, if that makes sense, depending upon where you live, because there are
No, I mean,
the city has built out as it has gotten bigger over the years.
yeah.
Because I do think it's probably multiplied uh, at least twofold in the last like 10 years that I've like been there off and on.
Yeah.
But I do believe that parking is a little bit more prevalent than it is in Seattle, and I believe that the city is smaller, so public transit just works better. Also, I believe the average, I think there's like a smaller homeless population. It kind of feels like the difference between uh, LA and San Francisco is these two cities. LA is gigantic, like
I,
Seattle is, and San Francisco is still big, but it's considerably smaller. And
yeah.
it's got like a more artistic kind of like highbrow vibe, where Seattle and LA are a lot more business centric, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
It does.
So I think that's kind of
Uh,
what you're going for. So I think yes, probably to an extent. I don't know how much, but
we'll see. I mean, again, we'll have to see. Early stages yet. Nothing is certain.
hmm
All it's certain is kind of where I'm going to eventually end up, but not exactly sure the time frame. So,
do
anyways,
you know when you guys are looking at moving?
depends. If I have something to go to before our lease is up, we will be moving June. If not, then we'll figure it out.
June,
Like 6 weeks from now, June.
like the first weeks of June, or
Depending on my lease ends. Yeah, I don't remember the exact contractual date.
do you, uh want help moving?
Maybe.
Okay, buy me a plane ticket. I'll do everything.
All right. Anyways, we've been
We'll talk.
yammering.
We'll talk about that
Well,
later. But
yeah, that
maybe
does not
some
that does not need
super
to be aired.
pro moving bro picks to be coming. What are we talking about today, though?
All right, we are going to yammer about the most successful film franchise in history, Marvel.
I was gonna say Pixar. Okay,
I mean,
Disney. Technically, yes.
yep. They have printed money.
but more specifically, the kind of this is being spurned on by the Martin Scorsese and the Quentin Tarantino talks of it's overrated. Yeah, youngins don't know shit.
Yeah, there was criticism levied by both of them that um, they are not necessarily valid.
Yeah.
Um, Martin Scorsese was basically that they are not good cinema.
Well,
And
that they are not. So to be specific, because somebody broke this down, and I think this does matter because the way it got initially received is people misunderstanding him, and it makes
sure,
sense. He's an old man. He's talking a little bit archaically. So Martin Scorsese said they are not cinema, in a tweet or some shit, and people exploded and were like, "You're stupid. Your movies suck." And they're wrong on both accounts. His movies are great, and he's pretty smart. However, what he is saying, and what people that are smarter than me have gleaned from this, is that he is saying that they are not cinema in that he's typifying their like effectively different genres of film. Because there's other movies that he would not consider cinema, and not as a slight. Like I think he actually said he's enjoyed a couple that he's seen, but they are not cinema in like the sense that he views them in. Meaning, looking like if you look at Hitchcock or something like that, he views that as cinema because it meets this threshold. Where to him, I think he kind of more compared Marvel movies, and I don't think this is that incorrect, as more like theme park rides. They're enjoyable, they're fun, but storytelling wise and what they're doing in the zone of like cinematic experiences is very droll, and he doesn't really consider them of that lofty nature that is, in his opinion, cinema. In quotes.
no. The other one the other big criticism that cropped up was from Quentin Tarantino, where he argued that effectively the actors are not famous in these movies,
Yeah.
that they are given larger celebrity status as a basically a byproduct of the characters they are playing because they are so you know so notable and of kind of they have a lot of social capital, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. It's
Where
like
they're
the inverse of Will Smith.
yeah, like
So, for those of you that don't understand that reference, Will Smith, when he plays most roles when he's not trying to get an Academy Award, he's being Will Smith in whatever role he's being. He is
sure,
not being the character. That's no slight. Will Smith is very entertaining, especially when he slaps the shit out of a comedian. Lol. Uh, but
touch
he's
that.
he's being Will Smith. He's not acting as like he's not allowing himself to go into the character. You can take that as a criticism. I think that's a fair criticism to make because when he tries to get an actor, when he tries to get an Academy Award, motherfucker becomes that character. You forget that it's Will Smith. Like when he was being Ali, he was being Ali. There was no trace of Will Smith in that performance, and it was amazing. And then he goes off and does this other stuff, and he's Will Smith getting paid tens of millions of dollars to be Will Smith wearing this guy's shirt.
Yeah,
So in this, we are saying that it's not Chris Evans playing
Captain
Captain
America.
America.
It's
It's Captain
Captain America
America.
as portrayed by Chris Evans.
Yeah,
And the notable part is the name of the character, not the name of the actor.
exactly.
So
People
we
go to
thought,
see Captain America. They don't go to
yeah,
see the Chris Evans.
yeah. So we thought it'd be interesting to go into whether or not we think that Marvel is necessarily valid or should be dismissed um, as cinema, or whether or not it has kind of good storytelling bearing, and see and our take on whether or not these two film giants know what the hell they're talking about, because clearly we're the experts here.
Exactly. So shall we agree with them and poo-poo on that pretty penny that is Marvel?
Well, in the fantastic words of Legal Eagle, it depends.
I was saying, do you want to go with the slights and then the
Yeah,
ups,
yeah,
or
yeah.
back
We can go slides first.
slights first? All right. So,
Um,
slight numero uno. These
they got
motherfuckers.
a bit of a formula.
Yeah. A plus B plus C equals profit.
Yep.
In so many of these movies, and to be fair, in a lot of the comics, although most of these stories are not based off the comics, which I think is something that myself and believe my co-host here and a lot of comic owners have realized to get over. And the best way to do that, for those of you that are still hung up on that, is just interpretate the cinematic universe as a different like storyline or a different universe, and
Yeah.
don't get so hung up on in quotes canon. But the formulaic issue, to me anyway, is just that most of the stories are not only very similar in that, they all like kind of like follow this general thing of hero is hero. If it's not the intro movie is hero finds out, becomes hero, goes through the hero's journey most of the time in some way or another.
Yep.
And then every 2 and 3 is, hero's great, but things aren't as great. And then bigger bad comes along and he has to readjust. And at the end, he discovers something about himself and defeats the big bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad. That is a fine writing thing. But when you're making
Dozens.
ostensibly 100 movies and they all go like that,
Yeah. They you pretty quickly get the sense of like where the movie is going to end. You get the sense of how these problems are going to be solved. You are very seldom surprised.
yep.
You very rarely get hit with a gotcha moment like, oh shit. Like you're not at any point baffled out of your shoes
Yep.
with one of these. And again, that's not always bad. There is something to be said for things taking a natural course. Like twists aren't always good either because sometimes it just subverts expectation to the point of making no sense.
if
However,
if what
this
you
isn't
wanted was popcorn.
yeah, this isn't that. This is you know what's gonna happen. You know the good guys are gonna win at the end. Like
Some people want that.
yeah, and like that's not bad. The problem is when you're doing it dozens of times over, you do lose a lot of your oomph.
Yeah.
Um, so
Turns out season 30 of Desperate Housewives is the same as season 1. Maybe
yeah,
make a new show.
yeah. What is our next criticism that we'd levy against them?
Everybody get in the ark! There's a flood coming!
That was one way to introduce the topic of they're flooding the market.
I was talking to somebody about Ostrom the other day, and like
Jesus
the
Christ.
ark came up. I don't know. It's just in my mind.
That's take, I guess. Yeah, there's a lot of them at this point.
It's too many. I would estimate.
Yeah, it's
Especially considering the amount of like crossover biz and how they clearly like I think there's some that are in the market like people dicked on She-Hulk and I think that was unfair. She-Hulk was going in a different vein and I really appreciated it where it was low rent, there wasn't that much. It was just kind of fun. It was kind of like the adult version of an afternoon cartoon where there was fun going on, wasn't high stakes, jokes. You can decide that you didn't like the product, that's fine, but I think the way in which it was going is good. But they have a lot of these that are built up as they matter. And like motherfuckers, like you already got us with the first one. That took place over years, like literally a decade was the build up to Endgame.
yeah.
And it was earned and it wasn't slow, but it definitely wasn't fast. I think they're probably coming out with. Hold on, I'm gonna do some research. But I believe it was like maybe 2 movies a year.
Sounds about right.
So we have Iron Man 2008, The Incredible Hulk in 2008. Then we skip to 2010. We have Iron Man 2, Thor in 2011, Captain. Okay, so I'm not seeing a year where there's more than 2
Yeah.
until 2017, where there's Guardians, Spider-Man: Homecoming, and Thor: Ragnarok. So in 2017, they started doing 3 a year, pretty consistently. They skipped 2020 because of the Rona. 2021, we come back hard. 2021, we get 4. 22,
So the problem is that
2022, we got 3.
2021 is now post Thanos because 20 Thanos was like 2019, right?
Endgame is 2018, I think. No, sorry, Endgame is 2019. Yeah, Endgame was 2019. So after 2019, they do that break. They come back with Black Widow, Shang-Chi, The Eternals, and Spider-Man: No Way Home. So you do 4 in 1 year. And it's around that time where it starts to become just like, and then like they have TV shows that they want you to watch that have interplay, because like,
Yeah.
I mean, WandaVision mattered. WandaVision did things that had repercussions. It affected her character moving forward.
Yep.
If you didn't check in on She-Hulk, nobody fucking cared. Which is like a weird thing to say about it in a positive light, but having to not worry about something does kind of
Yeah, it put an odd burden of expectation on anybody going to see a movie.
exactly. You're like, oh, well, I didn't watch this whole show.
And like that was okay when they're doing one or two a year.
Yeah, but
But
now
now
they're
they're
doing
doing
like
4 year
four.
and shows.
Yeah,
That's like just to fucking keep up, you gotta fucking catalog this shit.
yeah.
And that's
So
talk
every
yeah,
season, you're going to not only watch a whole entire show, at least one, if not two. You also have to go see a movie to be current.
or three.
No, no, I was talking about a season, like a season of the year, like fall, spring, summer, stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're
It's
doing
it's too much.
that is too much. That is a whole
Like
entire. That
and
kind of makes it to where it is like a Kool-Aid kind of situation where that is all you're doing. People don't have that much time to keep up on more than one show. For a lot of people, is an ask. If
and
they're
and
married, if they have kids, if they have a pastime, they're like, hey, would you like to keep up with the show? It's like,
and the other
yeah, I
problem,
guess I got nothing else going on.
yeah, the other problem too is that then like if you try to get back to it,
Mm-hmm.
you're really far behind.
Yep.
Like God forbid, I stopped keeping up with Marvel for the most part, and like if I wanted to really get back into it, I'm like, there's 4 shows I'd have to watch. Or I
Mm-hmm.
think three that actually matter. There's like 3 movies I need to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be asked.
Yeah. It starts becoming this slippery slope and this mountain that
Yeah.
you're not willing to climb.
There should not be a like if there's if it's a movie trilogy, there's a burden of expectation. You're gonna fucking watch the first two before you go watch the third one. You don't start with Return of the King. That's nonsense. That's crazy. But it's 2 movies over a fucking 5 year career.
Yeah.
You know, that's not that high a bar.
Yep.
But if per year,
Yeah.
like you wanna
Per
you wanna
year, you've
watch what I
got
make?
that many. Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
motherfucker, what?
it's too much.
Yeah.
It's way too much. And
It's
it also it feels kind of cheap because you're mass producing it like, oh well this one sucked, here have 5 more.
yeah,
Like
like neat.
yeah.
So one of the other things that you pointed out that is also a major problem, other than the fact that you have to, swear to Kevin Feige your eternal like loyalty and drink the
Undying allegiance.
the purple juice. Uh, there's also this hesitancy towards mature content.
Yes. And it is it is really, really sad because they didn't always do this. Like a lot of the Iron Man movies had a good not three. I don't want to talk about three. Um, but like 1 and 2 had a pretty good lean on like some serious shit. Like a lot of like thoughts about mortality. In the first like Avengers, there's the moment where it's like Tony Stark just thinks he's gonna die.
Yeah,
Like they have like I mean, granted they have the kind of hallmark joking atmosphere, and that's not always bad, but they have the moments where they just shut it up
yeah.
and they just
They,
let things be serious and heavy.
yeah.
And like I mean the end of Endgame was so perfect. Just the I am Iron Man snap, dead.
Fuck
Like
yes. Let's
yeah,
go.
it's just like even
Chills.
now, still get a fucking layer of goosebumps going down my arm at the thought. Like they had they had those wonderfully heavy moments, like when Captain America ditches the fucking shield in Civil War. Like
Yeah.
it's so good, and they just and after Endgame, they have not fucking let themselves go back to that.
No.
They have actively refused, it feels like, to engage and indulge in those wonderfully heavy moments. And instead it is just this onslaught and this barrage of jokes and fucking brevity and levity and humor. And like the worst offender in my opinion is Multiverse of Madness because it could have been this wonderfully dark, heavy thing because Wanda in the comics is fucking crazy.
I mean,
She
we
is
see it somewhat in like the films too. I mean, in
somewhat.
WandaVision, she's having it's like it's. I haven't seen it, but from everything I've gleaned from it, it looks like she's just having this mental breakdown that she's accidentally putting in her universe unknowingly.
Yes.
Like she's changing her universe via her powers,
So
via her like mental
So like
condition.
in my opinion, or what I think is that WandaVision is a bit of an odd take on this arc of comic that's really cool called the House of M,
Yeah.
where Wanda goes bananas. She is burned by a power to literally overwrite the universe, and it literally starts driving her crazy. And she erases her husband from existence. She
In the
acts,
comics.
yes. She kind of goes crazy and goes, and he just doesn't exist anymore. He's no longer a person. No one remembers who he is. The only person who knows is Professor Xavier because he can read her mind and
And
sees her
she
memories of
remembers
him.
him.
Hmm?
No, and he sees her memory of him. Like
Yes,
she
that
remembers
is
he
the
exists.
only evidence that he ever existed is her memory, which she doesn't know if it's real anymore. It's insane, and so she fucking overwrites a lot of the universe because people are afraid of her. It is awesome and super morbid, and I think that's what a lot of WandaVision kind of like leans into. But it's like, but House of M doesn't do that. Instead, you got and there's a great relationship between Doctor Strange and her because he can try to help because
Hmm.
he's a fucking psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And they don't do that well. And they try to make it jokey and funny, and that works with Spider-Man because he's a fucking kid from Queens. But that that doesn't work. And it shouldn't be a part of a psychiatrist trying to help a mentally ill woman. That shouldn't be funny.
Yeah. You shouldn't have
I
brevity in those moments, not to that
No,
degree.
you should let it be heavy. You should let it have weight. Let it be mature. It's very dark. It's a crazy person. It's someone who's traumatized and broken and brittle. Let it be heavy. Last thing, unless you got more you want to add to that, I kind of went on. I kind of took the mic there.
No, you did. It was great. One of the things that they do when shying away from mature content also is, like we talked about earlier, like having kind of like these stakes that matter, not only in like the aspect of showcasing whether it be comedy or drama and go, like kind of leaning a little bit dramatic, which they've since Endgame they have gone away from, which I think is very much to their financial and long term detriment, is also the idea of death and
Yep.
not only killing their main characters but having like most of the stuff I've seen is very cut and dry. There's not a lot of like nuance. And in the comics, they put up some characters that are really cool that are just like, yeah, but and like they have these gray moments or these gray opportunities to have like these kind of like thought experiments showcased in a story where, you know, like one of the characters like with Punisher, there's a lot of interesting interactions in the comics where he doesn't, you know, he's not willing, he's hyper rigid, black and white, you know,
Yep.
good or bad. And there's interactions where it's just like one, that thinking is an interesting one to play with. And you know, when you deal with like the kind of greater good kind of thing and people's past, there's like, I remember I was reading this thing in Civil War, like this is how black and white, like pun intended because of his uniform, this is how black and white Punisher is, that he's literally during Civil War he saves Spider-Man when
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man realizes, oops, I this is not the team I want to be playing for anymore, and kind of bails. And then like the good guy, and I think what's the good guys, the people that are on this side of, you know, registering the names, kind of turn on him because he's like, he has a moment of questioning the idea of this. Punisher saves him, brings him back to Cap and the people that are on the side of like no, registering is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he's there, brings him in, and then like two good guys, in quote, like superheroes, legitimate superheroes, walk in that have a questionable past, that have done some illegal things or do things that Punisher doesn't accept, and Punisher just shoots him. Like much to Cap's annoyance, and Cap beats the shit out of him and goes, "Fight back, I dare you." And he goes, "I'm not gonna hit you," because in his mind, like the kind of beauty that is Frank Castle is like he is hyper rigid. Cap is beating the shit out of him, and Punisher won't defend himself, let alone hit him, because
Yep.
he's like, Cap's a good one. I'm
I,
not gonna
I
hurt a
got no
goodie.
beef with Cap.
Yeah, and he says, "You know I won't." And like Cap's like, "Damn it," and just like lets him go. But it's just like, yeah, like he's hyper rigid, and that's an interesting circumstance. How do you, you know, you can have a situation, you know, since this is your own universe, where you can have them bent in a way where you can have Frank Castle evolve if you wanted. That would work. You know, it's your own playground. You have this character, do whatever you want with him. But
Yep.
instead, they're kind of following this middle path of like not offending people, very rarely doing something like they're doing more, and this is good while we're kind of on the subject. They are being a little bit more inclusive, having like some gay characters, some trans characters kind of being shown a little bit on the like the periphery, but they could do more with that if they wanted to. They could do
Sure.
more with like heavy hitting characters, bring back in the maturity, bring back in death. Having a good guy kill a bad guy, like this is something that is very rarely done. Is done somewhat in comics, but having a bad guy that's bad, kind of like have that. There's a couple times where it's done in DC where they'll have a bad guy that's so bad. I don't think that Bruce Wayne ever does this because he's fucking Bruce Wayne, but where some guys will be like, yeah, you can't go to Arkham and just kill them because like they're gonna get out and they kill people
Yeah.
that you're not worth letting that slip through the cracks anymore. And having a moment where a character goes, kind of bends their rule on that because you are an exception and we can't allow it. But
Yeah.
instead, gotta kind of toe the middle, which I get because they want to be hyper popular, but at the same time, that need to be hyper
At
popular
the same
means that
time,
you're just
have
selling
some
water.
balls.
Yeah. You gotta have flavor, otherwise you will get lost.
Yeah.
So last on this is and kind of feeding into the whole flooding the market thing a little bit, is the lack of direction.
Yeah. There was such a wonderful overarching narrative pre Endgame. And like
So fucking good.
it kept doing a great job with the fucking drip feed, the teasers, the post credits, fucking hinting and suggesting, and I mean they conditioned an entire generation of people to fucking wait in the movie theaters till the end of the movie.
Our
Like
father was very proud.
he was ahead of his time. He's a maverick. God bless him. We have come along, and Marvel is largely to blame for that. Those bastards. Um, but yeah, like I mean, everybody at this point, like the whole idea of like hiding something post credits, like that is popularized by Marvel, and it was
Mm-hmm.
because you wanted the next teaser, you wanted the next bit, you wanted to see who's gonna come up next. You wanted more, and because it had this clear and this slow build and this interweaving, it was so awesome. And then once they lost their big bad guy, what the fuck do I care about?
Yeah. They definitely. Not only what the fuck do we care about, where are we headed? It
Yeah.
is this like everybody's kind of going in their way, and that is fine. That is the way comics are. But when you're trying to build a cinematic universe, the best part of it, and the reason it worked in the beginning, and I think would continue to work best, is if there is a conscious direction, whether it's a big bad,
What?
whether it's a social issue. It needs to be some general overarching cloak to put on other than the M stamp that is we
Yeah.
own this shit.
And I think too is that like it worked for them to be individual in the beginning because a lot of the times they don't know each other. Like
Yeah.
canonically, the characters don't know each other. They're not involved. They're not. It would be weird if in the first Iron Man movie, fucking Captain America just busts out. What? What is he doing here? But as you were introduced, as the novelty wore off, what became exciting was seeing them interact, was seeing the character chemistry, the teams engaging, and that's what made.
Doth mother know you wear her drapes? It's like my favorite first interaction between characters is Iron Man and Thor.
Yeah, like shit like that. Like, and that was what was so cool was seeing them interact. And like
Yeah.
one of the reasons I think one of the best movies they made was Civil War.
Yeah.
Like it was just the
And like that goes to the not shying away from mature content. Having friends disagree, beat the shit out of each other, near kill each other over things that make sense.
yes,
Like that
like, there's,
ending,
There's really no
Tony
villain.
wants to kill with the Winter Soldier. He wants to end him. It's like,
Yes,
get it. I understand. But also, I understand Cap. So having that
but yeah,
pull in.
Cap is he's protecting his fucking childhood friend, and
Yeah.
nothing is gonna sway him.
Yeah.
You
It's
you
like,
completely understand and can empathize with both characters.
Yeah.
You understand Tony's rage. You understand Cap's loyalty.
yeah.
There
It
is no
all
question
tracks.
mark.
But, like, removing that, where are we going? What are we doing?
Yeah, like not, and then shying away from some of the character interplay and having them go back to being isolated incidents and isolated characters, it loses a lot of what made it so good and what made the build-up so phenomenal. Like taking that away, stripping that down, you are relying on an individual and no longer the sum of its parts. And if they had promptly started teasing and breadcrumbing a new villain and a new big baddie, that would be one thing. But they haven't, as far as I know. And granted,
No.
I'm not up to date. I'm
Yeah,
not totally
we
correct.
both kind of skipped out a bit, but I have not heard anything.
Yeah, I haven't heard any kind of internet rumblings. I've heard wild speculation. And there's so many awesome big bad guys that Marvel could just fucking toss in there. Just pick a name out of a hat. There's
Galactus. If you want to go
sorry.
bigger and badder than Thanos, you can just instant go
Yeah, I mean,
Galactus.
but like Galactus is like that's one of 7 options.
Yeah, no, I know, but like literally bigger and badder. Like Thanos
Yeah,
wants to kill half the people. Galactus wants to eat all the people. Uh,
Galactus is kind of a shit villain though, because he's not motivated by like
no, but he is a great metaphor for like
sure,
an like a cosmic inevitability, like the sun
yeah,
blowing up, or
that there's some
global
truth to
warming or
that.
whatever like that. It's a great metaphor there. Also, it is just so big, so ominous, and
Yeah,
so different that it wouldn't feel like, oh, it's another one. It's like, no, this is very different and a different
yeah,
kind of scary.
that's fair.
This isn't somebody we need to take care of. This is just this inevitability that we need to figure out a loophole around.
Yeah,
And then you just cue Nick Fury cloaking the planet.
yep. And then just rolling up in Galactus's ship with a fucking table and teapot.
Gangster style.
Galactus being genuinely disconcerted, like, how did you get on here? Like, how are you here? And he's like, don't worry about it.
Chill.
Don't worry about it,
I
buddy.
brought Earl Grey, homie. I would pay so much money to hear to hear Sam Jackson's Nick Fury say that to Galactus. I brought Earl Grey, homie.
Earl Grey, we don't worry about it.
Chill. Have a seat.
It'll be amazing. Um, so we have delved a bit on Marvel, and a lot of it on modern Marvel,
Mm.
for some of the shit they're doing. But let's talk a bit about maybe why they are valid and some of the stuff they've done very, very right.
So this is not going to disagree with Martin Scorsese's point, but more put an emphasis on why that's fine. So what Martin Scorsese said is it being of more like a theme park and less of a cinema is a bit of an old man yelling at cloud thing. But, given the old man has kind of reinvented mafia cinema in American, you
Yeah.
know, times, I think that's, more than fine. And I'd say that with no disrespect. And it is kind of a theme park ride, which is
Yep.
why there's making plenty of theme park rides that are based on them. And I think it's great. Like the evocation of energy and the spectacle that is like watching Endgame is like a roller coaster ride for the eyeballs when it gets like that, like you stop caring about story and you're just entranced.
Yeah.
It's like the second you see that hammer move in Endgame and you know where it's going and you know what's up, fuck yeah. Like
Yep.
watching Cap call for it, get it, and fucking throw down. Yeah, buddy. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
I write. I've written for years. My brain turned off at that point. I was just like, ah, and so great. And that's like kind of like that's what you build up for those moments where you get to like literally just have a visual roller coaster and just be all in and just be like twist and turn and jam and jive and it's like, are you paying attention to the story anymore? No, because why the fuck would I? Are you seeing what's happening on screen right now? That's great.
Yeah. There is like there is something to be said about just wonderful kinetic movement
Mm.
and just like even if you don't know the finer points about boxing, watching a boxing match is engaging. You know?
Mm.
Like you don't have to know stakes. You don't have you know what's happening.
People
And
punch
just watching
face.
yeah, just like, oh shit. Look, he just took a punch to the oh he's getting back up. Oh shit, like you know, it's so easy to be involved and engaged and enamored and enthralled and just be a part of it for that moment. Like, you know, watching like watching Spider-Man get the fuck beat out of him to get back up, awesome. You know, watching Iron Man fight Cap, awesome.
Yeah,
Like,
fuck Jesus
never
Christ.
mind that if they stopped for 10 seconds to talk like adults, they could figure this out. Now, fuck that shit. We're fighting. Okay,
Hit him again.
let's fucking go. Like, there's just something so wonderfully appealing about it. And like, I mean, you could make the argument about like the glamorization of violence, but yeah, fuck that garbage. I'm here to watch them punch.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it is
To
such a
quote Quentin
wonderful
Tarantino,
spectacle.
"'Cause it's fun, Jan."
Yeah, like it's they have some of the best visual spectacle that has been put to screen,
Yes.
and it's not close. Like they have some of the most hair-raising, fucking like gut-wrenching fights and conflict, and it's wonderful.
And also just evocative emotional moments like the end of Endgame Part 1, like with
Oh Jesus, no!
okay.
I don't want to go.
Yeah, like listening to
Ooh.
Tom Holland say that, and then like they built it up and the payoff was there. Like I know they're coming
It's been
back.
like fucking 5 years, and that still hurts.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
Ah,
get choked up, all my hairs on my arm are raised. Like that moment, they built up for it, and this kind of goes back to the whole, you know, lack of direction, shying away from mature content. They had this moment that I know, like I'd seen the IMDb thing. I know they're all in the second part.
yeah,
I 100% know that cognitively, but my lizard brain got
doesn't
triggered,
matter.
and I was like, no, don't hold on to it,
Yeah,
please, let
and like even the fucking start of Endgame, where like he just kind of falls into like Cap's arms. He's like, "I lost the kid." It's like, oh, yeesh.
Yeah,
Like it's rough. Like there's a lot of good moments like that. Like it, yeah, and just there's some wonderfully great. Well, like it is not shy away from some of those wonderful emotions. Like,
yeah.
um,
And some of these emotions can be used in our second point too, which is they have the ability to tell untold stories. There's a lot of really good stories that can kind of only be told through either them or DC if they ever get their shit together.
I'm not holding my breath.
I'm not either. Although, I mean, with Gunn, maybe, hopefully, for their sake, and for the sake of all their fans. But there's so many stories that have been written and so many characters that have been made in Marvel that
Uh-huh.
showcase these interesting ideas in these circumstances and these personalities and these stories of people that exist, obviously done via like metaphor or nuance, that
Uh-huh.
can get shown and really do something that otherwise would be really hard. That in this
Yeah.
one, it fits in a way that is going to be ingestible by the larger populace.
Yeah.
And it's like, please do that more. Like, I mean, they've
They,
done it. Like they did it with Into the Spider Verse. You can see the story of a guy who, is of a, as opposed to most characters that are white, you've got this different ethnic background of like, how do I deal with this? You see that even better with um, uh, Black Panther, with the in the intro scene alone, this idea and like Fearmonger is a villain pointing out like, hey, this is bullshit. Like we've got you are not taking care of your brothers and sisters around the world. You are isolating yourself and it's not fair. Look at these guys here, look at these guys here.
yeah.
And having, one of the nice things that they've done more than most and they've kind of stepped away from, I don't know if they've gone back to it or not, but instead of having these villains that are just like, I love Loki, but in the first one he is a cartoon villain. I want to control the universe. Cool. Funny, awesome, love it. Tom Hiddleston's a banger. It's
Yeah.
great. But then with the second one, it's like with Ultron, it's like he's making some valid points.
Yeah.
And then especially with Thanos in a bit of a different way, he's making some valid points. Like he's coming at it in a way that is very unique, very understandable. So to do this thing where they're making these three-dimensional villains, these gray antagonists that are like, they're not wrong. Like the way they're doing this is something we don't like, but like
Yeah.
that is a really cool story to tell and something that is getting picked up more and more by mainstream as time goes on, where you don't have just like the bad being the bad and the good being the good. It's like the more nuanced and gray you can get it, but you can do it on this huge scale, like
Yeah.
we saw with Endgame, where it's like, you have anything on this, or should we move on to the?
I was kind of thinking like they've got a couple odd stories that you think about metaphor, and it's like one of the ones that comes out to me, strangely enough, is the second Guardians of the Galaxy. Don't think the movie's terrific. I think it's fine.
I love that one.
It's it's good. I feel
I'm
like it
Mary
lost.
Poppins, y'all.
I feel like it just lost a lot of the magic from the first. Anyway, novelty, whatever. But I think one of the most powerful moments of that movie is just the line from Yondu. It's like, he might have been your father, but he ain't your daddy. Like, goddamn.
Yep. Cut me deep.
Yeah, like you know, the kind of allegory for absenteeism is incredible in that movie. It's
Mm.
like, yeah, the adopted father is kind of shit, but he's at least there.
Yeah. He's
Um,
there. He
yeah,
kind of cares. He cares in his shitty way.
he care like he's messed it up and he knows he messed it up, but like he tries. You
Hmm.
know, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's
Saved
wildly
him
inexperienced.
from certain death.
Yeah, but like, but his biological parent comes along when it's convenient, when his child is useful.
Yeah, when it's beneficial to him.
Yes, it's self-centered. Like it's like, you don't think that's not the apparent theme, but it's like there's a very clear through line.
Hmm.
So, um,
Well,
one of
while
the
we're on the subject, do we want to talk more about the opportunity for metaphor?
sure. There is something wonderful about larger than life characters and larger than life plot lines because you can thread in a lot of very human things to it, and some metaphor, and you can have some just be kind of reality. Like easy example is like Iron Man is an alcoholic. Like there's so many opportunities
Yep.
you can
You can just
inject.
see it.
Yeah, you can inject problem or like inject easy metaphor for like, allegories for loss, for any kind of number of character flaws, um, that are so human despite them being attributed to superhuman people.
One of the things also that I like, so to kind of go back to the way I'm looking at this, the movie Inception, when it came out, people made, and people smarter than me, that made the comparison between the cast and the way the movie was made to the making of a film. How this person's the director, this person's the editor, this person's the this.
Yep.
And in very many ways, making a good movie, making a movie that tells a compelling story is like Inception, in that you have to hide it so that it's uncovered later, so that it's not on the surface. To quote Futurama, you can't make your characters say how they feel. That makes me angry. It is best when art has nuance, when it has metaphor, when it has hidden meaning, because nobody talks in real life like what the representation of their language means. You can't have somebody saying, I'm doing this for this reason. That would just feel weird. Very
Yeah.
infrequently outside of therapy do people say directly how they feel. Just that's because the way society works. So the best way to make a movie and the best way to talk about an issue is through metaphor. And one of the best things about superhero movies is that metaphor is apparent, it is ingrained, and it doesn't raise red flags. It doesn't, cue in the audience to go, wait, why are they doing that?
Yeah.
Because there's so much insanity going on. This character can fly. Your suspension of disbelief is already heightened. This guy has an alien mother and a squid father. You're not paying attention to like little traipsings that where you can
Yeah.
hide these metaphors, where you can hide this nuance. So the ability to kind of like, do alcoholism and have it be a lot more, kind of underneath wraps, or having,
It doesn't take the focus. That's the
yeah,
thing.
it doesn't take the focus. I'm trying to think of some other like great examples where it's just like, oh yeah, that's what. Oh, I mean, the foundation of it. So to go back to the '60s or whenever like really Marvel started popping off, and Stan Lee was very much, began his run at being comic book dad god. Uh, Mutants are initially like their inception was to be a metaphor for the LGBTQ
Nope.
community
Nope.
and the African American
I was to
community.
say, I don't know the necessity of the LGBTQ. I know they were
Yes.
absolutely meant to be an
No.
allegory for the civil rights
No,
movement.
Iceman's gay. Iceman is a metaphor for the homosexual man in the United States. That is
Yeah.
100% that is canon. Like that has been talked about by the writers.
Yeah.
That was his
Okay.
like that was his creation.
I was just in the civil or the mutants are an allegory for the civil rights movement.
That is very much the case, but it was also LGBTQ. And I mean, like they kind of, in and around a way, fit the same of being mistreated for having done nothing wrong, and they're just being who they are.
Sure.
But that's very much what that was the creation behind that was for that. It was that's what that is. So when you look at the creation of this franchise, that's where it comes from. So the opportunity for metaphor is just infinite. You can
hence why Professor Xavier is effectively Martin Luther King Jr. and
yep.
Magneto is Malcolm X.
Mm-hmm. That one is the latter has been very much said by everybody. There's nobody that disagrees on that. Talking to friends of mine that are black that are comic book fans, they're like, "Oh yeah, we knew that like real early." With like motherfuckers is Malcolm X, which is apparently why the reason he reads so well to like a lot of like black teens. Like he's like apparently like really well liked by the African American community because he's just like it's kind of cathartic to watch a motherfucker just like not die and just throw his dick around and just be like dicks and just like fucking like slapping people with cars. They're like nice.
Yeah. Also, it's interesting that with comics kind of rebranding over time, people have rebranded Venom into a bit more of a good guy. When he started out as just like a deranged slobber monster.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't he kind of?
I mean, slowly, but it's
Yeah.
more because he was very. People liked him. He was interesting. He was cool. So he got kind of rebranded into a good guy, so they could justify writing a shit ton of comics for him.
Yeah.
But like Magneto became more and more of a good guy because it became hard to argue with his logic.
Yeah, it's just like,
It's like
all
he's
this.
just kind of right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
every
jeez.
time that they just keep trying to kill mutants, he's like, guys, do you not
Like
see
you
this?
know, maybe he is the good guy. Fuck. And I think kind of the last thing that Marvel did so well, and they have strayed from, which makes me so sad, is that their first again everything pre-Endgame did such an awesome job
Yeah.
working together. Even fucking Thor: Dark World, that movie is trash.
It's garbage.
That movie is hot fucking garbage. It is. I remember seeing it.
Thor
and,
the
like,
Portling.
Yeah, I remember seeing it fucking like when I was 15 or something, 14,
Yeah.
15. I'm not a critical mind yet. I don't have the vocabulary and the critical assessment to understand why I necessarily hate a movie, but I remember leaving going, wow, that was disappointing. Just like, but it still did a good job furthering that narrative because it teases the Infinity Stones.
Yep.
It teases one more thing. Like even that fucking garbage dumpster fire of a film furthered the plot,
Yep.
and it cemented more of who Thor is supposed to be.
Mhm.
It cemented more of his place in the universe. It cemented and it helped include the kind of wider expanse of the universe. And then later, that effectively meant Guardians of the Galaxy clearly tied in and connected Thor because they both go through the same like vendor guy. I forget his name.
Oh yeah, the collector.
Collector? That sounds right.
You're talking about the guy that's played by oh crud, Benicio del Toro, I think.
I want to say yes.
The guy who Quill gives the orb to or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the
yes, that
collector.
guy. Okay. Yeah, but like it that ties them in. Again, it's one more breadcrumb.
Yep.
Even though the movie's crap, it still does a greater purpose for the greater overarching narrative.
Mhm.
And then that's, not considering the kind of emotional and character tie-ins that happen as the movies become less independent and more kind of cross and involved. So like, Civil War, excellent example, sets up a lot of like kind of emotional tension. It sets up a lot of conflict. Spider-Man, he becomes effectively the protege for Tony Stark. Like, it does so many great things, interweaving narratives and creating dynamics. And like that's the reason why when Spider-Man fucking turns to dust, it's so heavy.
Yep.
Because there's that established relationship. He is Tony Stark's fucking protege.
Yep.
He is his apprentice, essentially. So the master watching his apprentice just fucking die in front of him,
Yeah. It's
Dear
like
God.
having a parent watch their child die.
Yeah,
And there's nothing they could do. They did
it
everything they
was
could.
inevitable.
Yeah,
And it,
exactly.
yeah, and it fucking hurts because they had fucking set it up. And they
Mm.
did such a good job of that. Like, even setting up Black Panther and introducing him in Civil War, you're kind of like, who's this guy? And, like,
Yeah. And then he gets his
so,
own movie, and it's amazing.
yeah, and so they don't have to spend all the time introducing that, like, he's got superpowers and shit. Like, you just kind of know he is a dude, and you know vaguely what he does, and so it's interesting to see him get fleshed out. You're interested. It does such a good job constantly promoting something that's interesting and involving and engaging. And they such an awesome climax.
Yeah, the payoff was worth
Exquisite. Like, I hate time travel, and I didn't hate the payoff. Like, Jesus.
the wait. Yeah,
and and just what happened?
yeah. They're like, we're gonna try something new, and I hope they figure out that this new is not working.
Like, go back to what worked. Go back to making them involved and
Yeah.
intricate and interwoven. Go
I
back
mean,
to
yeah, they
having
basically made a cinematic TV show. They or like a movie TV show because like if you look at the first one like a season, it's got 10 or 12 episodes. It's got a rise, a fall, interactivity. Like it is kind of like Game of Thronesian, except condensed down to like one super long season because they're movies instead of episodes.
sure.
But like it's kind of like that. You've got a bunch of like 12 2-hour episodes and then this
Yeah.
epic finale. It's like damn, as a banger, and they're followed up with like I don't know, just fuck around. Like it's kind of like
Do a bunch of miniseries. Like, ow!
it reminds me of Heroes. Season 1 of the show Heroes is busted. It is so good. You've got these people all kind of independent, figuring each other out, coming together to fight this common evil at the end of the season, and then it's relatively resolved. And then after that, somewhere between the writer's strike, mixed direction, and all this shit, it just ends up being this weird grab bag, and the direction is like really nebulous and whack and fucking crap, and it just falls apart because they didn't rally the troops and figure out how to redo that again or where to go from there. And I feel like they planned out Endgame, and then after that they're like, darts at a board.
They're like, well, we have all this money. I guess we should make more.
How much more? Yes. Okay.
All.
Yeah.
How much money we got? And like, to be fair, some of them are good. Like, Spider-Man still plays. Spider-Man was good.
Yep.
But here's the thing. It fucking involved Doctor Strange. Like, it was. I mean, granted, that movie has a bit of an idiot plot, but it, it's still very good. It's still very entertaining. It's still very engaging. Like, yeah, and God, I love seeing Willem Dafoe as the Goblin.
I just love seeing Willem Dafoe.
Also that, but like, I love seeing Willem Dafoe has the best psychopath energy ever. It's unsettling in all the best ways. Also, the way he changes his voice is unsettling. I love it. It's so good. It's so good. Because you can tell when he is fucking Nick Osborn and when he's the Goblin. And
Yeah.
like, oh, good God.
Eat your heart out, Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, before we fanboy too much over our favorite lunatic, I believe
Yep.
it is time to send it to an ad break.
Yep.
So, see y'all in a bit.
Have you ever wanted to feel some mainstream appeal as a nerd? Have you wanted to indulge in a little bit of power fantasy? Do you love when the good guy wins in the end, and most things wrap up with a nice little bow on top? Might I interest you in some comic book movies? With them tasty comic book movies, you get the first grade moral lessons with explosions and punches, punctuation to emphasize. Add in some clear expectations of who's your villain versus who is our hero, and you found yourself a winning formula that will undoubtedly appeal to the masses. So what are you waiting for? Go embark on that hero's journey to get the MacGuffin. It's coming to a theater near you this summer.
Hey!
Well, hi.
Welcome back. Thank you for returning.
We appreciate it.
So, as previously stated, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break from writing for the next couple weeks as prepping for a very big tournament that means a lot to me. However, one of the last things I've been working on with the Magician's Academy is having these kids who now have superpowers need to dip from reality or from society, dealing with realistic circumstances. One of the ones I had, and I hope I haven't talked about this yet, is having them deal with, wait, how do we eat? We're a bunch of kids. They're gonna be smart kids. I have them all being like, this is their last year at this high school. They're the ones that are actually gonna graduate and make it. Like, so they're like the creme de la creme of like a low income high school.
Sure.
However, they still have to figure out how to eat. But they also are good kids as they are smart and stay out of trouble, so they have good morals. So there's this moral imbalance between, hey, we need to eat, but also we don't have money and we can't have jobs. So, and I have for like the first 2 or 3 episodes, I'm arguing about stealing food because they're like, we need to eat. Yeah, but we don't want to be the bad guys. Yeah, but we need to eat. Yeah, but we don't. And like this goes back and forth, and I have it over like 3 episodes. This guy bringing up to the de facto leader, like, yo, the fuck. And she's like, we're not bad guys. He goes, yeah, but we also can't starve to
But
death.
we are also hungry.
Yeah. And it's just really kind of cool. They end up coming with this resolution of like, okay, we're going to steal, but we're going to write down everybody we steal from, and we're going to give them
Keep
back.
a ledger.
Yeah, we're going to keep a ledger, which I think I'm going to have come back to bite them later because the bad guys are going to find it or some shit and use it to like, use it as a way of like kind of incriminating them as like the baddies that are should be feared by society when isn't the case. But very much like a yeah, but that's the starting point is like they go and like they kind of steal food, but like keep an accounting of it. Are there any other like realistic circumstances that you think people would run into in such a circumstance? I have like housing and food being like the major ones. The housing they just like find they're like living in like a they dip out to like a underground like a switchbox room in like an old part of a sewer thing.
So I mean, housing is a bitch, but like you also gotta consider things like getting drinking water, like utilities, like
Well, utilities.
trash.
Yeah, I mean trash you can just throw away in a dumpster. Utilities. I mean, if you're on the lam, what do you need utilities other than like a shower?
Well, like so. I mean, actually, another easy thing is like entertainment. Like
Sure.
people don't underestimate how crazy and batshit you go if you're just sitting in a room forever.
Yeah.
Um, like so, just something to do is like people wanting like creature comforts, like wanting television,
Mm.
wanting radio, wanting music, wanting shit like that.
Okay. Yeah, music's a really fun one to play with because that's also like a potential problem because it's like heard,
Yeah.
and so like
Like
it might like let people know of your situation. Okay. Yeah, when I get back to it, I will definitely try to. I mean, I was kind of like that's a really good one that, and it very is very true. Like if you talking to people, I remember feeling bad about that early or like kind of late in my adolescence, early in my adulthood, being like, I'm doing this to because I want to play a game. It's like, yeah, that's fine. Like people do that to watch a sports team. Like this is normal. Don't feel bad. I was like, oh really? Talking to a therapist, they're like, yeah. I was like, okay.
yeah.
Anyway, what you been working on?
Um, cobbling together chunks of disparate things. Eventually, I'll pick something to write, like and stick to it to some degree. But I've started writing a little bit for my follow-up to Clockwork King,
Sweet.
or Clockwork Rebellion, I guess is what I'm actually calling it.
Also sweet.
And it's kind of interesting starting with the main character being kind of broken in a sense because he just watched a lot of people die for him
Yeah, and felt it.
and felt it literally because they're all tethered to him. So,
Were. Were.
were yes, very very past tense. And so it's interesting playing with the notion that he doesn't want to go back to that because connection means vulnerability. And so where the first one started with him being optimistic and like a bit nervous but eager to be awesome and be this kind of leader, he does not want that anymore.
Mm.
That idea is terrifying because that idea means he gets to feel more people die. And so, and even though, but it's at odds with himself
Mm-hmm.
because he has to. He said he would, and he knows he can. He has to try, but he doesn't want to because it hurt.
Yeah.
And it's like that's very basic and very simple, but it's very understandable and it makes sense. So it's interesting writing like him dealing with soldiers who don't know who he is. So they just make fun of him for being some refugee. Even though he knows he can compress them like a trash compactor.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, he's still a demigod. He could just put on metal skin and beat them into a red mist. And it would be easy. But then people would know. And he
Yeah.
would have to acknowledge that he is in fact Clockwork. He'd have to reassume that identity. And right now it's gone.
Hmm. That is a very cool predicament. I love it. When it comes to, so you've been editing this for a while as well as writing and pontificating more.
You've been editing it off and on. I need to do more.
Okay. You've been
It
kind
is
of
not it has not been consistent.
okay.
And a lot of it's been slowed recently because of just a lot of life stressors that makes it hard for me to think. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Turns out that idea, I remember having this idea to kind of go back to this notion of, and I love him, he's a great writer, but some of the things he says is fucking stupid. Aaron Sorkin had this thing where he's like, yeah, like, what do you do when you're at, like, when you've got nothing else? If that's what you do when you're, like, that's when you know you're a writer. It's like, sometimes people need to, like, have moments to themselves. Like, this
like
idea that, like, that's what you do when you've got time. It's like, you can't do the idea that you can function and do things under not any circumstance, but that like when you're at your like debased self, it's like that's not. Don't
right
judge yourself on those moments.
there's some truth to that, I think, because I think at no point when I'm feeling miserable with myself and miserable with my situation, life and whatnot, I do want to write. I want to keep making myself write. I want to be creative. I want to be engaged like that. There's
Well,
some truth to that.
yeah, you
Making
want
yourself
to be.
do it
Yeah.
is different. But I think one of the things that fundamentally cements you as a writer is that the inclination is not fair weather. It
Yes.
wants it needs to be there.
It's a proclivity that rears its head at many a turn.
Now, actually making yourself do it and pushing through, that's about discipline. That's not about being a writer.
Yeah.
That's about being a determined and, or, like well managed one.
Yeah.
It's very different.
For sure. Um.
You got to recommend for the people.
So, finally, I got around to seeing Cocaine Bear, and it didn't
Excellent.
disappoint. This is weird. Okay, so I will recommend Cocaine Bear to anybody that has Paramount Plus. I think this is a great
Okay.
movie to see for free.
Not worth the $15 movie ticket.
I don't think it's worth the movie ticket or going out to like watch it on a streaming service or like a rental service online that's like $20. That's a bit high for this. It is very B movie schlocky fun. It's very mid. It does a lot of weird shit. If you're watching it for free, it's great. If you're paying money for it, I think you're going to be mildly disappointed. So I would say
Okay.
if you have Paramount, you should watch it, have a beer or two. It's fun. If you don't, you can probably save your money. There are better B movies I think you can end up seeing, or you can just wait until you can see it for free because this is not a movie that's going to have so much viewership that you're going to eventually have to pay
It's a meme.
$20. Yeah, exactly. That's a great way of putting it. It is a meme. This is a meme that was made to celluloid, and that's fine. But like, given time and money, I think if you're the person that didn't like, if you were on the fence, either wait or have Paramount.
Yeah.
If you weren't on the fence, you've already went and saw it, or you already have plans, in which case you're probably going to enjoy it, or you were bound to see it anyway.
Sure.
It definitely wasn't a huge letdown like a couple people rated it. There were some harsh ratings online, and for what it is, I think it did fine. It definitely didn't
Sure.
meet my hopes and dreams, but my hopes and dreams were pretty high. It was fun. It included one of the things it did was what I was worried about and what a lot of like B movies feel the need to do. Granted, I don't know what they would be like without it. That would be kind of interesting to see. But they injected a lot of story that nobody cared about. That people were like, whatever. Like nobody was going to that for like like a full
Nobody's going to that for
story.
the people.
No, they're going for the memery of it.
We
If
go
you
by the
want to
title
have,
as Cocaine Bear.
yeah, exactly. If you want to have a cheaper and I would say arguably more fun time, I would recommend Mark Norman's Out to Lunch. Mark Norman is a great comedian, very irreverent, and does a lot of jokes per minute. I think he's very, very funny. You can watch his special on YouTube for free right now. It's been out
Nice.
for a hot minute. And that one, free.
Who
Two,
doesn't love
I
it?
think that one hits a little bit better. I think Cocaine Bear has a fair amount of like mid to miss moments.
Yeah.
Mark Norman does not. And if you don't
Okay.
like a joke, don't worry. It's going to be on to the next one in
You
two
wait
minutes or
9
less.
seconds, you'll get something
Yeah,
else.
he just very rapid fire. Very much recommend.
Nice.
What about you, Broskinkowski? What you been
I've
putting in front of
got
your eyeballs?
I've got some internet shit to recommend. Uh, my yes, sweet sweet poop. So my wife and I have been. She got me under this guy named Internet Historian. He's got and he is a YouTuber who does a lot of kind of goofy meme shit. Like he has effectively kind of a weird informal podcast that he does with a couple various people. They just talk about random topics. It goes weird places. But his main thing is he goes on to bizarre things that have happened on the internet, and he kind of tracks through and does like actually a fair amount of research for some of them about and beams up what happened. Like one of them that he went through a huge breakdown of was the whole like Coney 2012 situation,
Hmm.
which there's way more to that than I knew. I just kind of knew that like he was some
Bad man, bad.
yeah, like I didn't know all about like the whole South Park thing of jacking it in San Diego came as a result of the guy who started that. Do you know about this?
No.
Yeah, so apparently the guy who started the whole like, stop Coney 2012, like what happened was he wanted to make because he learned about this African warlord in Uganda
Yeah.
and so wanted to make him famous so he couldn't hide essentially was the idea. She's like, okay. So,
Yeah. Spotlight. Got it.
interesting rationale, spotlight, get the roaches out kind of deal. Okay, fair. The problem is that it got so much traction and as a result he came under so much public scrutiny that the dude fucking snapped. And so there is like tons of video of him running around fucking San Diego naked, screaming at people.
What the
He just
fuck?
lost his mind. He literally he had like a psychotic break and just snapped. So I learned about that. It's excellent. He's got a bunch of things like that. Phenomenal. Some of the funniest shit. The guy also he's really funny. Like
Nice.
yeah. So highly recommend. Give him a look. It's good. It's good meme content. Marvelous.
Oh, I think I've seen one of his things. This is the one that he's got the old man
Yes.
face on a lot of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
He did like a paint version of it essentially. Yes.
Yeah.
That guy.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I remember seeing something on this guy about I want to say like a video game or something like that.
He's done a bunch of video game stuff.
I think
That's
there's one
very
he did
possible.
about like Fallout.
I think I remember seeing like a thumbnail for it on his channel. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a bunch of.
Oh yeah, The Fall of 76. Yeah, that's the one I watched. I think it's like one of his like more popular ones. It's got like 33 million views. That one's very fascinating. It shows like why Fallout 76 was just like a fucking dumpster fire.
Absolute dumpster fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy is hilarious.
I know
Like,
it's great. Yeah, I
yeah.
forgot that's who that was. Awesome. Thank you for reminding me.
No problem.
So something I'd like to remind you that exists is the band Nothing But Thieves. Especially the song Is Everybody Going Crazy? Or just any song by them. This is what I was jamming to the whole entire weekend that I got second at the regional championship in San Diego.
Yeah.
I was listening to four songs, but especially Is Everybody Going Crazy? And I was just vibing hard in the zone, and would highly recommend and implore you to give them a shot and see if you too feel the same, because it is Bang City.
Nice.
And with that, I believe that's our episode. So thanks for tuning in. And if you enjoyed this, please feel free to
Like,
comment
share.
and subscribe.
Don't forget that new episodes of Super Pros Bros come out the first and third Saturday of every month.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Did you say bye-bye?
I don't know.
You trying to reinvent the wheel here, kid?
I don't know what happened there.
Stay in your lane.
Okay.